Adam here. So, what's your podcast? Really cool interview for you today. I got to sit down with Matt and Noah, who have been on the show before from Constructing Comics podcast and also various comics. These guys are putting out comics all the time, which is really cool. Ageless Comics is their comic brand, Constructing Comics is their podcast. Check out both. Really cool guys. And then one of their friends, Travis, who is a writer artist himself, has his own comic coming out. So Travis wrote it and did the art and color, and Noah's helping him with the lettering, and Matt of Ageless Comics is helping them produce it. So it's this really cool team effort. They've been putting out a ton of comic books, and they're all great. Everything they do is original. Everything they do looks fantastic. They are really getting it down. So the newest comic is called Mossvale, Mossvale. There's going to be a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes, and of course the banner running across during the interview. I love talking to these guys. They always get me jazzed up about comics. They always get me excited to go work on comics, to read comics, to see what else is out there, not just stick to the big two. So to do 45 minutes with three other comic creators was a ton of fun. Even if you're not a comic creator yourself, there's a lot to get out of this. There's a lot talking about process, but also inspiration and just how working with friends can keep things going. And you can apply that to many things, especially in the last 2 years. There's a lot of talk of how great it was to have this thing that was, pure fun and pure joy to fall back onto and get into. So enjoy the interview. We had a ton of fun doing it. A little bit longer than our usual ones, but so worth it. And even at the additional runtime, I felt like I left stuff on the table. There was so much to talk about. So enjoy. Hey everyone, Adam here. So was your podcast. I'm going to sitting down with Noah, Matt, and Travis to talk about their newest comic, Mossvale. How you guys doing?
Doing very well. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely, yeah. This is fun. This is probably gonna be a regular thing because you guys, as a team, are putting out comics all the time.
Trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
that's a big thing.
right. It takes a long time. So I guess to start, why don't you guys? Well, everyone sees your names, but introduce yourselves, and then you can say like what your role in Mossvale was. If you want to start, Noah, because that's clockwise on my screen anyway.
Okay, yeah, my name is Noah Ray. I'm the letterer and designer for Mossvale. I'm also helping a little bit on the marketing and everything with the Kickstarter. And I'm friends with I've been friends with Matt for about 5 years and friends with Travis for about three. And yeah, I've worked with on comics with all three of them at this point, which is awesome.
Awesome, yeah. And Matt.
So my name is Matt Kund. I am the publisher of this book. As Noah said, he and I have worked on a number of things in the past 5 years. We would do a podcast as well, and we've been working with Travis behind the scenes on Mossvale for a while. And our last Kickstarter, we got to know Travis's art skills by him doing a cover for Dino Thrashers. Actually, two Kickstarters ago. That was Dino Thrashers one that he did a cover for.
Very cool. And Travis.
Hey, Travis Wells. I'm the writer and artist for Mossvale. And as Matt said, kind of got to know him a bit through doing the cover art for Dino Thrashers. I've known Noah for a few years.
That's cool. So you knew Noah was working on it, and did you just say, "Hey, I have this idea for a cover"? Like, how does that kind of thing happen?
So actually, Noah reached out, and I'd known he'd been working on the project and seen some of the work, and he reached out and just said, "Hey, we're trying to get some guys to do some variant covers. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Sure."
Oh, very
Um,
cool. So Matt, as a publisher, because you're also really heavily involved in a lot of Kickstarters and getting comics out there, and it seems like you have a lot of good experience with that. How did Mossvale come across your like? Were you aware of it from the beginning?
Not necessarily from the beginning. I would say early on I was aware of it. Noah has a really good story about how he and Travis were working at the same time, but he was showing me art, sharing art with me, and I was seeing sort of character designs, and then from there I was seeing pages being built. So I knew about it for a while, and I guess maybe I should transition to Noah because he has a really good story about the two of them working on similar projects and how the timing really worked out really well there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so Travis and I both started working on our respective comics at around like around the time that quarantine happened. So I started working on Dino Thrashers, and around that time, Travis started working on Mossvale. So we used to live closer to each other, so we would meet up at like outdoors in the summertime and draw pages together. And then, when we weren't like able to meet up, we would just send photos of our work to each other, and it would sort of keep I can only speak for myself, but it kept me going, and like it kept me at a good pace and everything. And so I got to see this comic sort of start from the ground up, and sometimes like literally, because like I would be there when he started a page and just like watch it grow like and progress, which was just amazing to see. And naturally I was a fan of it. So I around about a year ago, Travis messaged me and said that he really wanted to get this book out there to people, and if I was able to help him with that, either that, just give him a hookup onto someone. And I was like, well, I can hook you up with Matt and me, and we can try to get this on Kickstarter. And Travis was down with that, which was awesome. So I sent it over to Matt, and yeah, the rest is history, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Travis, this was kind of your baby, your conception. How did the idea come about?
The idea, uh, pretty much, it started with the characters. Started off just kind of tinkering with the idea of animal characters crossed with like D&D style um, characters, whether they're wizards, paladins, etc. So started kind of playing around with some different ideas there, and ended up with a handful of characters. And Noah had been started working on Dino Thrashers, and it's good inspiration for me to just say, hey, let's start this comic. Stop dragging my feet. So yeah.
Oh, cool. So the kind of the look came before the story, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely.
That's cool. I always wonder how that kind of stuff is born because the character design's really cool. Like when I saw Matt and Noah and Constructing Comics, which is your podcast that we should plug that, posting some pictures on Instagram. I was like, oh, the look of that's really cool. I wonder what they're into now. So it's kind of cool that the art came even before the story and not the other way around. So is this?
Yeah, I feel like it was a little.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just to say, I feel like it's a little flipped around, but I feel like it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, as an artist, maybe not flipped around. You got to do what's in your head.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this your
But
first? Sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, I was gonna say Travis is equal parts writer and artist, which
Okay,
I
that was my
enjoy.
next question. Is this your first
Yeah.
time writing, or have you been doing it all?
It's my first time really writing something that I've tried to publish. I've uh, written some other things I've held on to, but this is the first one I've been this excited about, and really wanted to get out there to share.
That's cool. How did you find that experience going from concept to like this is the one that I want to get out in the world?
Sorry, the sound's cutting in. What was
Oh,
that?
how was that feeling of you had written things in the past and this is the one that you want to get it out in the world? Did that help that you saw like your friends getting books out there and other people, or was it just like this is the story for you? No,
Oh, poop.
connection issues.
That's okay. While he's working on that, we can certainly fill in.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this a while with Travis. I think one thing that was really interesting was that he's taking sort of a discovery writing approach. Like he had the characters, and he had basically like you know 3 or 4 plot points that he knew that he wanted to get to in the book, and he knew where he was going to end. But as he was building the story, he was sort of discovering like how to get from I want to be here at one point, midpoint of the book. I want to be at another point. So he's sort of discovering how to get to those points. So it's we talked about it a little bit in some of our other interviews as sort of the pantser versus the plotter approach, and he's sort of in between those two things, that he knows where he wants to go, but some of the discovery is in between those points, and it looks like he's back now.
Okay, yeah. That's the fun part in storytelling is like you kind of have an idea where you're at and where you want to be, and then all that in like you're figuring it out along with your characters. That's how I find it works anyway.
Yeah, Travis, when
Yes,
you
absolutely.
yeah, when you cut out, we were just saying how you got a bit of like discovery writing to get in between the two, the parts of the story that you wanted to get to, but some of the discovery was in between those.
Absolutely. I think in this story in particular, it was cool. I had point A, I had point B, and kind of letting the characters take over how to get there.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I always find that kind of writing just it flows. It never feels like work. You're just like, oh, I want to see what happens next because you're seeing it just as much as they are.
Absolutely. The
Yeah,
word
that's cool.
nitty gritty comes with the editing, your flurry of writing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Time to tighten things up. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I thought it was cool. You were saying that the beginning of the pandemic when you couldn't really do anything, but it was at least nice out, so you could be outside and to be able to work side by side with someone on a comic. That's probably not any of our normal experience at this point.
No, and it's never something I've done before either. Like I've never been able to really just sit down with someone and not like we're not at like Travis and I probably aren't at the same level like artistically. He's much better than I am. But to be sort of at the same level conversationally about what we're thinking about artistically was really nice. To just basically be like, dude, like right now I'm thinking about how to translate the energy of my thumbnails into my pages and it's like how do you approach that or you know I'm smearing my ink too much when I erase my pencils like how do you handle that that kind of stuff was going on. I'm paraphrasing here we had like and that would just sort of be great and we would share with each other our like inspirations and uh the books we were reading or the books that we were taking inspiration from. It was awesome. Truly just and it's not stopped too. That's the thing. Like I'm talking like it's not it's like this is only in the past. But
Right.
Travis was there for me for the whole first issue of Dino Thrashers and the second issue, and he'll probably be there for whatever project comes next. Like we've not stopped drawing together since Mossvale finished.
That's awesome. I love that because even just this, like this conversation, I know as soon as we wrap here, like I'm back in front of my computer working on my own Like it just energizes all. I'm sure we all feel the same way.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
And all three of you guys are artists, right?
yeah.
There.
Me, not so much, but
I don't know. I see you posting quite a bit on Instagram.
yeah,
Yeah.
I tend to think of myself more as a writer, but I do dabble in drawing here and there.
Yeah, that's cool. But even that probably fuels your creative juices. So one probably feeds the other, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I have a bit of a like a daily practice, and sometimes just to get started, I might not be able to get started with the writing. So sometimes it might be the sketch that I try to do once a day to just sort of get me started, and then you know I'm kind of in that mindset of creating, so I can then just shift it to writing. So sometimes it's just sort of an exercise to get ready for writing and stuff like that. So
That's a cool tactic. Yeah. You kind of find a different way in.
yeah.
That also kind of makes sense because you're always posting like varied things. Like it's not just oh here's the comic I'm working on now. Like I think it was yesterday or something. You had a Lord of the Rings picture, and I'm like, oh man, you never hear about Lord of the Rings anymore. It's great.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's scrolling through like images to get sort of like an idea of what I want to draw, and then it's just something like sometimes it's easier to figure out what I want to draw, and then sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. It's just sort of going through some stuff. I mean, I have no problem drawing like well, no, I to get excited to draw like a Marvel superhero, that's but sometimes I just want to do something different. So
Right. Yeah, makes sense. You gotta always change it up to stay interested. Very cool. So going back
Yeah.
to Mossvale, when you had your very basic concepts, what was the A to B to C kind of journey? And not like specifically, I'm not like I don't want you to give up all your story points and spoilers, obviously, but just like
Mhm.
what inspirations did you draw from? Was it character driven, or did the characters fit the world you had in mind?
I think it was definitely character driven. I had the scenes in my head I wanted to do, like I said, and characters evolved as I plugged him into the story. Definitely, definitely character driven.
Okay, that's cool. Did you find that your story and possibly both your characters did not end up where you had originally intended? Like maybe you had a vague idea of where you wanted to go, and then as the story progressed, you're like, oh, that's not it at all.
There definitely was some curveballs, and Noah can attest to this. I think I had like 5 or 6 pages left to draw, and I was like, Noah, instead of this, and he was like, oh yeah, and I got so excited about that idea, and it didn't change the whole trajectory of the story because this is going to be multiple issues, but it definitely uh, got to this ending point in a different way.
Okay, that's cool. I like that.
Uh,
Go ahead.
One of the things I like about how Travis writes, and it kind of aligns with a lot of the stuff I like too, is that he's very like character driven, but also like I want to see my characters kill things driven, that kind of thing. So that's a very juvenile way of putting it, but like
Oh man, we're having all sorts of connection issues tonight.
Oh man,
That's okay.
language, or at
Well,
least like I like. So yeah.
yeah,
We lost you for a second there.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying. I just like how I like how Travis thinks that way. Just action.
Which is
Yeah.
also a funny way to put it, because if people check out the artwork, it's like they're very cutesy characters.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely
Yes.
some uh some irony, like the cute characters mixed with the action for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I like that. I like that a lot, because that was one thing that I first started to notice from the artwork is the anthropomorphic animals, but then you're not putting them in like Harry Potter's early chapters. You're putting them in this like deep fantasy world, so you know something's going to go down.
It's
So from the script concept, because you wrote it and drew it, so that probably really helped you with the writing. You could probably kind of write in a shorthand to yourself because you're also doing the layouts and everything.
mhm.
How was it when you brought Noah in to help with like lettering and things? Was it a bumpy transition bringing another creative mind, or was the script kind of solid and locked?
It was Noah, do you want to talk about this? I mean, it's
No, you can talk, and I'll lead off of what you're saying.
okay. It was a pretty smooth transition. The first issue we kind of realized we might have is I drew all the speech bubbles on traditionally, and I did for the most part pencil in like the actual text in the speech bubbles just to make sure that the size was good, but there were some changes to the script made later on, whether it was grammar or kind of uh, saying things in a way that didn't sound so info dump stuff like that. So that was the big one there. Noah.
Yeah, no, and he's been saying this in interviews that like he doesn't want to draw the word balloons in the next issues, but I love it. Like I love that like people who get the original art tier are gonna get more than they bargained for because it's like first off, it's full color, but then also to have the word balloons in there is so freaking cool. And if you get certain pages, you'll get to see the dialogue written in, which I love as like an OA geek.
Mhm.
So much fun. Uh, but also one of the nice things about that is that today I was looking for fonts for lettering, and it's great to have Travis's handwriting in there because then that can I can like sort of pull like I'm like okay, what font will fit this best based on his line.
Oh,
Um,
that's really cool. Yeah.
yeah, it is cool. But like the lettering you see on the Kickstarter bright page right now is just sort of a placeholder font. It's not final. So like I'm working on the final lettering right now, and yeah, it's great. I was pushing for him to create his own font for a long time. I was like I was like, Travis, you penciled this, you inked this, you colored this, you drew in the word balloons, you better letter it yourself. And
And
but eventually I don't mind lettering it. I really don't, because I love this artwork a lot. And I love the dialogue. It's so much fun. If you read those first 6 pages we have on Kickstarter, you get a feel for how the whole book flows, and it's really it's really fun.
Very cool. Yeah, Matt, you were kind of nodding along when they were talking about some edits in the script. As a producer, were you also kind of giving maybe not story notes as far as, oh, you should do this instead, but like cleaning it up and things?
Not so much. Again, this is just sort of me leaning on Noah as somebody that I trust a lot. Like Noah and I say this a lot in interviews, either when we're interviewing somebody or we're being interviewed. There's not probably a day that doesn't go by that I don't trade some sort of art story, conversation about a movie. So like I really am just sort of task no not task sounds terrible, but sort of like I trust that Noah's going to nail it with the lettering. I mean, he's got a lot to work with what Travis has given him. And as he said, the balloons are placed there. So it's not like Noah can go in and be, pontificate and give us some like Chris Claremont like X-Men, and somebody walks in, he's we're it's a lot of show don't tell. So with that balloon, being there and that size that it is, there's certain there's a certain amount of you know constriction that he has. So like, and I know that he's going to not put anything that's in there. He's going to describe what we need to get there and get out. And then I'm sure once it's all lettered, we're going to take collectively, the three of us are going to take a pass through it and just sort of you know get it where get it where it needs to be if it does need to be changed. But yeah, I have full faith in Noah to get us there, and he's got a lot to work with what Travis gave him.
That's cool. The concept's really interesting that the balloons are already drawn in. Um, Maybe my personal process is just wrong, and it likely is because we're just totally winging it. But we are doing like two versions once it's lettered. We're still changing all the dialogue and moving things around and adding balloons, whatever. So Travis, you must have a really solid vision of how you want your page to be.
Yes, I have good vision. And I would take it a page at a time. Even the thumbnails and the finished pages look quite different. But for me, I wanted to make sure that I left room for speech bubbles and stuff. I've seen panels, just other people's work where it's like, where's all the dialogue gonna go? Like there's just so much going on. And then also when I had started the comic, I wasn't quite sure where it was gonna go or what kind of team I'd be working with. So I thought I was just gonna be doing it all traditionally. So even the lettering and stuff. So I didn't have any way to add speech bubbles later. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So your all of your art is traditional medium, right?
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yes, me and technology, I don't always get along.
It feels so. I know it's the way comics have been done forever, but it just feels so ballsy to even do your coloring that way.
Uh, there's a couple inspirations I had. People just works I'd seen where I looked and was like, "Is that traditional? Like like that looks really cool." There's a no, I could be wrong, but I think it's the Hobbit adaptation. I believe it was done in watercolors, the graphic novel,
Yeah.
and that was just beautiful. Like that was so good.
Yeah, I got to check that out. You have a lot of like glowing effects on your characters, and I thought for sure it was at least maybe traditional and then like touched up digital. Like people added special effects to things after the fact. But you did all that traditional also.
Yes, yeah, it was a
Wow,
lot,
that's awesome.
building up layers get that to work out.
That's so cool because it's a nice soft glow like around fire and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really called to me with the art is that it's done with markers, and to get so much effect from there's an owl with a glowing staff. They'll go into like taverns and you kind of feel like the warmth of the fireplace that's just off panel, like on their shoulder. You can feel that. And you know that would be I say it would be easy, but I feel like that could be an effect that you would add in Photoshop to just sort of pull a color gradient over something and stuff like that. But Travis is doing that like with markers. He's like building it up from the lightest. I believe you said this before, from sort of the lightest to the darkest. Is that right, Travis?
Yes. Yeah,
Oh, that's so cool.
drawing the glow first, extremely light, and then building the entirety of the lighting of that panel around the glow. And if there's another light source, adding that in.
I mean, at the very least, with Photoshop, you could hit undo, like with a marker. It's gonna take me a little bit to wrap my head around that. That's super impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, for
And
anyone
he works
listening,
fast.
fast.
What?
Fast. Yeah.
It,
Travis works fast. It's amazing.
it can get a little intimidating, like the fact there's no undo. Sometimes I'm just like, why don't I have a tablet to just do this? When you spend, I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have experienced this too, but you spend 2 hours on a page and you like sit back and you're like, the last thing you did, you're like, uh-oh. Like, yeah, So there's that worry there.
Has that without dredging up horrible memories, have you had any pages that you were just like, well, I guess I'm back to pencils?
Yeah, I think I've had two where I was past ink or at least had inked it, and it's just like, oh boy. And squeezing time to do artwork in here and there, it can be kind of frustrating. It's like, well, try again next weekend.
Yeah. Oh, that's rough. But
Yeah.
the results definitely speak. Like you can definitely tell that care was put into it. Because anyone listening, like, go to the Kickstarter, at least look at the first 6 pages because it's super impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had originally before we went to Kickstarter, we had a few more pages up, but we decided to pull back the number of pages that we were going to have on there, and we had some internal discussion, but we're like, we got to get to that splash page. That's sort of the last of the preview images that we use a lot for promoting the Kickstarter. That splash page that Travis has there, we had to make sure that we had that on the preview.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think 6 is a fair
Because it looks
amount too.
awesome.
Yeah, uh, I've kind of studied some of the not ins and outs, but some of the thoughts that people have on Kickstarter. There's this school of thought that you should launch on a Tuesday, and that you should have at least 5 pages, preferably lettered if you can, to promote the book. So once we had more than five original or five, and we went with six because we needed to get to that splash. But yeah, I feel like that's a good representation, and to get to that splash, hopefully we've intrigued anybody that's looking at the Kickstarter to want to know what happens next after that amazing sort of image that's there.
Yeah, especially because you did sequential pages, so you can follow the beginning of the story and you can,
Mhm.
dip your foot into the water and see what's going on. Which is right.
Yeah, you can get a good feel of with the first 6 pages. And we talked about this a little bit, is how Travis started with character sketches, but you also get a good feel for the what the characters are like. Like we talked about this before, that the raccoon that's a knight. He's he wants to be brave, but he's not brave, and you can certainly see that in the first 5 6 pages of previews. You get a real feel for how the characters act, even though they might look one way, but you can definitely see sort of their tendencies and characteristics in those first 5 6 pages that we have up there.
That's a really good point too. Yeah, the pace of the writing and you're not just getting into the world, but you get to understand who you're going to be following into the world.
Mm.
So the writing pace, I mean, maybe that's just how the story came out, but was there a thought of I need to get to this point by this page count?
Yeah, I uh, kept in mind kind of the general plot structure, intro, setting it up, and then the main body of the story with the action and the denouement after, and kind of had that. And there's some adjustments. Obviously, it's not all going to be cookie cutter perfect. The big thing was I wanted to make sure that people just got interested early on. And especially with the preview pages, you don't want like the first 6 pages of the comic to just be talking heads and stuff like that. And because 26 pages, it is a lot, but at the same time, you want to kind of manage that right and realize like I need to get a whole part of a story in here that's part of the story and also complete on its own.
Yeah, that is the tough thing with the episodic storytelling is like you have to cut it at a point. You can't have a 50-page first issue.
Yeah.
As far as the
Well,
writing
you
and the
could.
well, it's true. Okay, yeah, technically you could. You could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
As far as the writing goes, do you have, because you said there's more to come, is that already being worked on, or you're like, let's just deal with this first and not get ahead of ourselves?
I'm putting the majority of my energy into this first one, just as far as uh, doing what I can to help with the Kickstarter and sharing it and stuff. I'm not as I feel like I'm playing keep up with Matt and Noah, which is great. They're just awesome. I'm putting the majority of my effort into that, but I have been working on the script for the second one and the thumbnails, and I've kind of been doing those at the same time, just because that's how my brain's processing this story. And then I also have the outline for this overarching story plot. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. That's probably crucial. Having the overall big picture so you can plan the individual pieces.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Travis's part for issue one, as far as like creatively, he's turned over all of the pages to Noah. All 25 story pages are with Noah. So I think one thing that's what we're really hoping for is that we've done some Kickstarters in the past where we've had like goals to get them out, but this one, we're promoting it, but Noah's like, as we're doing this, as Noah said, he's picking out fonts, all the artwork is scanned in, so we're hoping for a really quick turnaround here. And
Yeah, it
for
sounds like you're right there.
yeah, so that allows Travis to promote, but also he can get a little bit ahead of us with working on issue two, since he's sort of got his issue one creative part completed and off to us.
Yeah, very cool. And as far as the Kickstarter, because you're a few days in at the time we're recording this, and I'm going to get this up as quick as it'll probably go up tomorrow, Thursday, the 10th, for anyone listening after the fact. Um, how has that initial thing been going?
Like with any Kickstarter, the first 1 to 2 days is very exciting, especially for us this time. We saw a lot of early action, and we were able to get a project we love from Kickstarter, which was the first for me and the first for Ageless. So I think the night before, you're a bit of nerves and excitement. It's sort of like Christmas, and then you hit launch. First first backers come in. It's really quick and really fast. We did really well early on. First couple of days, I think we shot to the close to 50%, and we're still sort of tracking really well, sort of grinding it out here a few days in. It's not the speed and frequency of the first couple of days. We're picking up a backer 1, 2, 3 a day, but just still trying to put the word out. And I feel pretty confident in how we're doing. Um, you know, we got 3 weeks. We're pushing about 65% funded, so we're doing pretty well.
Excellent.
But I'll let some of the other guys talk here.
Sure. Do you guys
Yeah,
want to
I'm
go down?
interested.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm interested to hear Travis's view of it all because this is his first Kickstarter, and the last interview we recorded was the day before we launched. So I'm really interested to hear
Yeah,
from him.
definitely.
Yeah. All right. So the night before that, I think was when we talked, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Matt expressed like like I'm getting a little antsy, that the day before the Kickstarter. Noah was like, yeah, yeah, and I was like, I'm actually all right, but I haven't like really like I mean, I hadn't done it with this much investment and stuff. And uh, then the first day started, and I was at work, and they had been started the Kickstarter early on in the morning, and I was getting like messages from my family like, "Oh, Kickstarter's live, awesome, great," sending me screenshots and stuff. And like they said, we did like, I mean, within the first couple days, it was like 50% backed, and I was like, "Oh man, this is awesome." And then as it's kind of like hit that like mid Kickstarter lull that like is a thing, and Matt warned me about it. Thankfully, I could brace myself as it's still going up, but it's, went from like woo to like, this. Uh sorry, now I'm starting to get a little anxious, but they're confident, so that helps me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Matt and Noah have definitely been down this road before. I would take their word for it because they helped us a lot too on our first, a lot of advice and stuff, which was huge. Um, but from the little bit that I know, having only been through it once, being 50% funded right off the bat and still having steady increase, I think you can sleep at night. I think you're all right.
Yeah, and there's I have the ability, well, we all have the ability, but I'm still tracking stuff like with the Kickstarter dashboard, so I can see the number of people who have saved the project. So there's this uh there's this obviously everybody who's run a Kickstarter or run a couple, they know that there's a lot of activity at the beginning. You have that lull where you pick up a backer here or there, and then at the end there's another rush in that last 48 hours. So we're tracking some of that information. So I think that is also helping us feel confident here that behind the scenes with the dashboard we can see the number of people who are still sort of have it saved. You know, but yeah, it would I guess we would all, well, I feel great, I feel confident, and I feel, I'm thrilled that the number of people who've already backed it, that we're going to get the book to them. So just it's just really fun to even if it's just three people that come in a day, it's like, hey man, that's three more people that we get to deliver the book to somehow. So it's pretty exciting.
Absolutely, yeah. That's
Yeah.
three more readers you have. What are your different
Exactly.
tier levels? You talked about it a little bit with original artwork. I
Yeah.
think Noah mentioned that.
Yeah, so we have sort of the stuff that you would expect from every Kickstarter, a digital reward, a physical reward, and then we have some higher tier items. One thing that's new this time, and I'll probably turn this over to Noah, is that we have these awesome Mossvale figurines that are being made. So Noah, do you want to talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, well, those are being made by our friend Lewis. We met him last year at AwesomeCon in DC, and he was making clay sculptures. And just by happenstance, we went up to him to commission a sculpture for Dino Thrashers, and it turned out he was a backer of Dino Thrashers, which was even more awesome. Uh, and we got a commission from him for one of our characters for Dino Thrashers that we have now at our tables at conventions. And right before we went to Baltimore Comic Con to meet up with Lewis and pick up our Dino Thrasher sculpture, I reached out to Lewis to commission him for a Mossvale sculpture for Travis for his birthday. And then Lewis and I got talking, and he was just so hyped to work with us, and brought up that he would love to work with us in the future, creating Mossvale sculptures because he loved making Lucius the raccoon. He loved making that sculpture, so that was in the back of my mind. And I talked with Matt about that. I talked with Travis about that. And while we were putting all the rewards together, I reached out to Lewis again to see if he was cool with that. And he's totally down. And I think he's working on a sculpture right now, so we'll be seeing something soon from him. And he for sure has at least two backers have backed it at that tier, and I highly recommend doing it because not only will you get like a one of a kind sculpture, but you'll also get the book, which is even cooler. So you get to read the book and have this little piece of physical media for it, which is awesome.
That
Yeah,
is
we have a
awesome.
we have a tier where it's the book and the figurine, or if you want to go really high end, you can get a page, the book, and the figurine. And recently we've seen stuff from Lewis where um he's designing Nigel's staff, and it's he's got like a blue light bulb that will like flicker, in it, so it'll light up and stuff like that. So he's getting really creative with the stuff that he's doing, and they're one of a kind handcrafted items. So that's some of the higher tier stuff we have. But digital physical books, we have we're going to digital library of books. It's going to be everything Noah and I have worked on. And then it's also going to include Mossvale, so you'd be able to sort of dip your toes in and get a digital library of everything we've done thus far.
Very cool. Yeah. Travis, how did it feel to see something that was in your head, then you got it on the page, you could kind of see what it would come out and look like, and now you have a 3D representation of it?
Well, he's right there. Here, let me grab it. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, it's great. It's a big sculpture too.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
big, it's solid, it's heavy. There's I think there's like, is it magnets, Noah, that are in the feet? So
Yeah.
it's not gonna tip over. It's really bizarre, like seeing something like a character I made 2D like this, and but oh, so cool. I just want to give him all my money, give Lewis all my money, make all my characters. Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's a really cool reward too, or perk, whatever Kickstarter
Yeah,
calls it.
yeah.
Yeah. And I guess like one of the things we can talk about is the size of the book, and Noah can speak to this. We're going to put this a little bit larger than a standard DC or Marvel comic. So Noah, do you want to talk about that since you're handling the book design?
Yeah, we're printing the book at 8.5 by 11, so it'll be magazine size, which is I think the best way to read this book because Travis is drawing them all at 9 by 12, so it'll be the closest representation of looking at the actual art, and so you'll get to see all the detail that Travis puts into the books, and it was mostly inspired by these other comics creators that Matt and I have had on the podcast before, John and James Coates, who do Dino Beasts. They print their books at that size, and I wasn't sure if that would be something that would be possible. I was thinking maybe we do smaller, maybe we do, try to fit it onto a normal, standard comic book size. But when I got Dino Beasts, I knew that that's how Mossvale should be printed at that size because I personally love like larger art in any form, whether it's like hardcover or just your regular old floppies. It's yeah, I really think I just want to share the experience that I've had looking at the original art with everybody else, and thankfully Matt and Travis went along with my idea, which is great.
Yeah, that is cool, and that makes a lot of sense too, especially given that it's all traditional. You can really see the detail and the care put into it.
Hmm.
And you
Exactly.
guys said it's 25 story pages plus the cover.
Yeah, well, once we go with the printer, everything needs to be in multiples of four. So I'm sure we'll add some, backing, maybe some sketches, maybe, Noah's done some Mossvale art, so we might include some art from, takes from other artists, but there'll be some other stuff. Yeah, there'll be some other stuff added beyond the 25 pages of story, just because, like I said, with the printer, they wanted to be in multiples of four so that they can fold up. So we'll add some bonus material as well.
Very cool. Well, it sounds awesome. We're gonna have the link in the show notes so everyone can see it. And it sounds like you said 3 more weeks on it.
Yeah, we're going to, I think the end date is March 3rd, 2022. So we still have about 3 weeks to go. So we're off to a great start, and we're hoping to continue. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but if the numbers go a little bit higher here, and we get even more comfortable, we might throw out a stretch goal or two here soon. But we're not quite there just yet. But we're hoping to get there soon.
Yeah, very cool. So Travis has been a pretty good first kickstarting experience with your first big published thing that you wrote.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll hopefully still think so. We will. We will. Time is over. No, it's been great.
That's awesome. I think it's really cool, Matt and Noah, that you two have been working together on so many varied projects, and then even not like you're always a 50-50 team. Now you have, your other friends coming in, Travis, who had a cool idea, and you're just kind of using the network that you're building to get more comics out there, which, you guys are constructing comics. It's kind of the whole goal. It's really cool that it's happening.
Yeah, and if I could add one more thing, is
Yeah.
one thing that I'm really really excited about this is that we've marketed this as ages 7 and up. Noah and I have written some horror and sci-fi books that I wouldn't be comfortable handing to my daughter who's a little bit younger, or maybe like Noah's niece who's even younger than that. But like I feel like with this book. Um, even though there's action and there's cartoony sort of violence, it's perfectly well. I think that it's acceptable for readers 7 and up. So that's pretty exciting that we're going a little bit we're going a little bit more all ages. So hopefully we can get more of an audience here. And like I said personally myself, this is a decision for everybody to make. But I wouldn't have any issue giving this to a smaller child that I felt could handle it.
That is a really good point, because it does seem like a lot of maybe just the world that I've been in, but a lot of the indie comics people that I get to talk to or anything, it's more like young teen and up.
Hmm.
So to be able to skew a little bit younger is cool. And that's also the fun thing about fantasy, is that you can have as close to an all ages story as you can get, where, I'm in my mid 30s, I read the first 6 pages, I want to read the rest. And if you can give it to a 7-year-old, it feels the same way. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's a real challenge that Travis handled really well is with an all ages book is that like kids want to be challenged, and they want to be scared, but they don't want. I remember me being a kid. I like when I was reading something, I felt like I was getting away with something, and I
Hmm.
wanted to be scared, but I didn't want to be too scared. So like I feel like Travis handled that really well. And
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody really feels bad when a spider, takes a sword, to the midsection. So it's a little different, sort of like, you know, action and intrigue there, and the sort of the consequences and the what happens. It's a little well, it's lighthearted in one way. It's actually not lighthearted, and it's real world stuff in another way. So I think it's handled really well.
Was that your goal from the beginning, Travis? Was to have it all ages, or is just the story kind of told itself and it worked out that way?
Yeah, it kind of in my head was aimed all ages, and it definitely helps that I'm an adult and a child. Oh, I can relate.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for taking the time to come on. I wish you the best of luck. It sounds like things are going really well. I'll do whatever I can on my end to help you guys out, and that was awesome.
Thanks, we appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Thank
if you
you.
want to plug socials, obviously we'll put the link to the Kickstarter in the comments. But anything else, you guys, if you want to take it in turn to get your word out there, Matt, you want to start?
Yeah, there is I would just say the best place to keep up with Dino Thrashers and Mossvale is the Ageless Press stuff. We have an Instagram, a Twitter, and a Facebook. That's the best place. Travis, I'm sure is going to go pretty soon, but following his Instagram is sort of the best way to see like works in progress, and the state of like what's like on the table that day and stuff like that. So Travis, do you want to give out your Instagram?
yes, it's Travis J Wells underscore illustration, and that's where I'm posting things, just as projects as I'm working on, pages and character art and whatnot.
Very cool. Yeah. Noah, how about you? Anything you want to get out there?
I'll take this as an opportunity to plug the podcast, Constructing Comics. We've got interviews and reviews coming up. I'm pretty excited. Well, I think we're going to get back into reviews here pretty soon, which will be great. And we also have some great interviews on there. Like we interviewed Travis recently, which I think was a great interview. Um, we've had other people on there, like you, of course,
Yep.
and your comics writing partner, Mike, who is also awesome. We have 2 episodes with you guys. So I highly recommend checking out Constructing Comics podcast on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. We're everywhere. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. Just search Constructing Comics. I don't need to give out the handles. It's pretty simple. I look it up all the time. It's easy. So yeah.
And Travis, you gave us your Instagram. We'll put the Kickstarter. Anything else you want to lead people towards?
No, Kickstarter for sure. You know, it's the most important one right now.
Right, I'll put that at the top.
Thank you.
Well, guys, thanks again. That was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Definitely, anytime. I'd like to thank Matt, Noah, and Travis one more time for coming on the show to talk to me about Mossvale. The Kickstarter's running for the next few weeks at the time this is posted, so tons of time to jump in. They have a lot of tiers that start super, super cheap and go up. Even their expensive tiers are not all that expensive for what you get, so I highly recommend you check it out. At the very least, go to the Kickstarter and check out. They have the first 6 sequential pages on there, so you get an idea of the story, you get an idea of the characters, and it looks fantastic. It reads fantastic. It's something you want to look at. Please make sure you like and subscribe. A lot more interviews, a lot more new movie coverage, unboxings, comic reviews, everything like that coming your way. You're not going to want to miss out. Also, make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, videos, merchandise, and more. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media. All of our accounts can be found after the show and in the show notes. And on a more personal note, speaking of comics, a good friend and I have an ongoing comedy comic series. It's called Social Studies. It's a slice of life. Comedy, as I said, it takes a look at the high school experience. We follow a group of kids through high school as they're learning who they are, where they fit in, and the one kind of universal thing for them is that they can always fall back on their friends. Even when there's bickering amongst the group, it's like sibling rivalries. They can always rely on each other. We have a lot of fun doing it. We keep it light. We kind of do it in the style of the 90s cartoons that we grew up on and inspired us. You can find all that at socialstudiescomic.com and on Comixology. Thanks.